This is CBC Vancouver News.
An alleged carjacking suspect was shot by Vancouver police. Now the IIO has been called in to investigate. Also,
by declaring it an epidemic, we're asking for support services for survivors and prevention services.
highlighting the prevalence of gender-based violence. A powerful campaign is shining a light on reported cases of sexual assaults in 5 Vancouver neighborhoods. And
I used it before. It's a lot faster, actually. It's painless.
Privacy, security, where that data down the line and where's it stored.
passengers flying domestic out of Vancouver will soon encounter some new technology at the gate. Why the change is garnering mixed reactions from travelers. Hello, thanks for joining us. I'm Janella Hamilton. BC's police watchdog is investigating after a suspected carjacker was shot by police in East Vancouver early this morning. Vancouver police say they received a 911 call around 4 o'clock from a security guard who reported that an armed man had stolen his vehicle. Police located the suspect and the vehicle a half an hour later at the intersection of Slocan Street and East 23rd Avenue. Police say the man was shot while they were taking him into custody. He was taken to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries to his arm.
The suspect is in custody and he's currently under guard at the hospital, and we anticipate multiple charges related to the robbery, weapons, and driving offenses.
Addison says the suspect has not yet been identified by police and no officers were injured during the incident. Police in Surrey say the final consular camp of the year went ahead without any incidents today. A small group of Khalistan supporters gathered outside the camp to protest the presence of Indian officials. As Shoria Chethri reports, this particular event had been postponed and relocated after tensions at previous camps raised safety concerns.
Gaurav Grewal is taking his mother to renew her life certificate at Arya Banquet Hall in Surrey.
So it's more convenient. I don't need to fly with my mom, go back home, fill the form in Delhi and then fill it.
This consular camp run by Indian consulates assists seniors with critical documents they need to continue receiving their pension from India.
So people from High Commission, they help us to fill the form and they stamped it. So I'm going to submit this to my bank, my mom's bank, and they're going to release the pension.
Since November, similar camps across BC and Canada have been met with protests from supporters of Khalistan, a movement calling for an independent Sikh homeland in India. Outside the hall, a small but vocal group of protesters assembled across the street to oppose the presence of Indian consulate officials.
We are here to oppose that because it's now clear to everyone that who these people are.
The protests come amid escalating diplomatic tensions between Canada and India. Last month, 3 people were arrested outside the Lakshmi Narayan Hindu temple in Surrey when a protest escalated during a different consular camp. The temple president told CBC News that Sunday's camp was initially scheduled for November 24th on temple grounds but was relocated to the banquet hall for safety reasons. Surrey Police Service also in attendance, their first consular protest since taking over as the city's police of jurisdiction. But these protesters insist their demonstrations are peaceful.
We will be very peaceful and respectful to our country and our peoples.
Meanwhile, back inside, attendees like Grewal hope to avoid any disruptions.
I don't support any violence. If anyone who is protesting like calmly or under the laws, everything is okay, but there should be no violence.
The Surrey Police Service confirms the protests ended peacefully without any incidents. Shoria Chethri, CBC News, Surrey.
To underscore the alarming prevalence of gender-based violence in Metro Vancouver, the YWCA has launched a powerful campaign called Close to Home. The campaign uses bus shelter ads to visually represent the number of reported sexual assault cases within a 10-block radius of each ad. It's part of the YWCA's push in urging the province to declare gender-based violence an epidemic. According to the organization, BC has the second highest rate of gender-based violence of any province in Canada. The CEO says 48% of women in BC have experienced some form of intimate partner violence since the age of 15. And for Indigenous women and people in the 2S LGBTQ+ community, that figure is much higher.
And throughout every day, we're highlighting how government can take action to end gender-based violence. And by declaring it an epidemic, we're asking for support services for survivors and prevention services.
Ads can be found at bus stops in 5 Vancouver neighborhoods. The campaign runs until December 10th, which is International Human Rights Day. Starting Tuesday, Air Canada passengers flying domestic out of Vancouver will encounter some new technology at the gate. But as Renee Lucas tells us, not everyone is on board with the change.
Facial recognition, a technology Air Canada says will speed up the boarding process, enabling passengers to walk onto the plane without showing a boarding pass or any ID.
It's a technology that has shown its value for, I'd say, about 10 years across different airports and installations around the world. So Canada is a latecomer to the use of this technology.
Boarding with facial recognition is on an opt-in basis, and passengers' identity can still be verified manually at the gate. The program has been piloted at Air Canada lounges in a few North American airports, including Vancouver International Airport, where reactions among travelers are mixed.
I used it before. It's a lot faster, actually. It's painless.
I feel like it can be used to racially profile people, especially considering that a lot of algorithms don't really consider people of color since they have a bias towards white.
What are you concerned about? Is it privacy?
Yes, privacy, security, where that data down the line and where's it stored and anything like that.
The airline says the data is encrypted and kept for 36 hours before being deleted. But privacy experts want to know more.
If I was the Privacy Commissioner of Canada, I would be all over this.
Kabukian says Air Canada needs to better communicate how it's handling passengers' personal information and what it's doing to keep it safe.
What happens during that course, during the 36 hours? Who can gain access to it? How is it used? What are the purposes? Is being retained for that length of time.
Air Canada's facial recognition program starts Tuesday at YVR. If you're up in the air about using the technology, Kabukian says the safest thing to do is opt out. Renee Lucas, CBC News, Vancouver.
To Vancouver Island now, where skiers and snowboarders are finally benefiting from the recent snowfall. And for the first time in 8 years, Mount Washington opened 2 weeks earlier than normal. Our Claire Palmer took a trip up the mountain to check out the conditions.
The snow is good and the stoke is high as Mount Washington opened this weekend after a bomb cyclone dumped more than 200 centimeters on the mountain.
On trail, we got hero snow here. It's making you the skier you wish you were. It's just optimal. It's amazing. And blue skies to boot.
These conditions of Mount Washington are unreal. Yeah, they're insane.
No, well, I tell you what, it makes me feel young again.
Stoke's through the roof. They opened early. Can't get more excited than this.
Yeah, November opening for the first time
it's
in
crazy.
8 years.
It's awesome. It's gonna be such a good season, so gotta get up.
It's the earliest opening for the resort in 8 years, with over a 250 centimeter all-natural snow base, according to the resort, which says that's more than what fell on Mount Washington during all of last year's disappointing season.
The stoke is incredible around here. The community's so excited to be up and back skiing, and we're happy to be able to be open early for everyone, 2 weeks ahead of schedule.
It's not just people on the mountain who are excited. Down in Courtney, winter gear consignment store The Blue Toque says they had their busiest day in 15 years on Saturday, with a steady stream of customers coming through all weekend to get outfitted for the slopes.
I would call it a frantic excitement of everybody's walking through the doors just with smiles on their faces saying, hey, did you see the snow report? Did you see the webcams? It's finally happening. especially because we had such a bummer of a year last year. Most people are really keen to get back up into the good snow.
For now, the mountain is only open on weekends with a bare-bones crew holding down the fort before the resort fully opens December 14th. Stockton says guests can look forward to the opening of more terrain and lifts.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. We had a lot of snow to dig out for sure, a lot of work to be done, but we made it happen just in time to open early.
The outlook for the season ahead is sky high, as another storm system is expected to bring even more snow in the next 2 weeks. Claire Palmer, CBC News, Mount Washington.
A winter storm has dumped heavy snow over parts of BC's north coast today, with freezing rain still in the forecast for much of the region. Environment Canada says the terrace area could see as much as 50 centimeters of snow throughout the day, and overnight that snow will turn into rain. That means poor visibility and slippery conditions on the roads. A large part of central BC was also hit with snow today, including the Stewart, Nechako, Prince George, and Quesnel areas. But that heavy snow did not stop people from coming out to the Santa Claus Parade in Prince George today. It's the first Santa Claus Parade in more than a decade, and thousands of people showed up. Santa was, of course, in attendance with Mrs. Claus. Meanwhile, the mayor of Prince George was riding in style on a Zamboni with the city's mascot, Mr. PG, close by. The parade is part of the Spirit of the North Festival of Trees, which also features an outdoor market and a public skating rink. All right, let's take a peek at our full forecast for the week ahead. Let's begin with a quick look at the temperatures tonight in the province. -20 and snowy in Fort St. John, -2 in Prince George, same with those scattered snow flurries overnight, and 1 on the island in Victoria. Heading into tomorrow, -5 for Fort St. John, more on the rain and precipitation side for tomorrow rather than snow, 1 in Prince George. 3 degrees and sunny and cloudy in Williams Lake for tomorrow, 1 in both Kamloops and Kelowna with some sunshine. Rain on the island in Victoria with a high of 7 for tomorrow, a bit drier in Tofino with a high of 8. Here in Metro Vancouver, 6 is our high for tomorrow with a mix of sun and clouds, and lots of sun on Tuesday and Wednesday before that rain returns on Thursday. Still ahead, we'll bring you details of Trump's surprise dinner meeting with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau from a cabinet minister who was at the table. That's next. U.S. President Joe Biden has pardoned his son Hunter ahead of his 2 upcoming sentencing hearings. He'd been convicted of tax evasion and of lying on a form for a gun purchase. The pardon covers both. Tonight's statement said the following: Hunter was singled out only because he is my son, and that is wrong. I hope Americans will understand why a father and a president would come to this decision. As late as last month, Biden had said no pardon would be issued. Friday night came the news that Justin Trudeau was headed to Donald Trump's estate for dinner amid the uproar triggered by Trump's tariff threat. Since then, there's been a scramble to find out what was said. The CBC's JP Tasker has the latest.
Days after promising to impose huge tariffs that have the potential to cripple Canada's economy, President-elect Donald Trump sat down for dinner with the Prime Minister at his Florida resort. A hastily arranged visit both sides say was a success.
It was a very warm, cordial meeting, and I saw very much the mutual respect and warmth between the two leaders.
Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc was part of the small Canadian delegation that dined at Mar-a-Lago, Trump's sprawling estate on Palm Beach. While Trump has called Trudeau weak, dishonest, and a far-left lunatic in the past, there was none of that sort of talk Friday night, LeBlanc says.
He walked us to the cars, to the front door of Mar-a-Lago. He said to the Prime Minister, keep in touch, call me anytime, talk soon.
Trudeau promised Trump more money for better resources at the border to stem the flow of migrants and drugs into the U.S., something that was well received by Trump, who called the meeting very productive on social media. Trudeau left Florida with a smile.
It was an excellent conversation. One of the things that is fairly unique about President Trump is how much he values personal relationships.
This former Trump official says Trudeau's visit was a diplomatic coup. It could help Canada avoid the worst of Trump's protectionist policies, he says.
And I think the willingness of the Prime Minister Trudeau to fly down to Mar-a-Lago and meet with him personally is a very significant move, and one that I think was appreciated.
This is the consequence of having a weak Prime Minister who's lost control.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre disagrees and panned the visit, saying it accomplished nothing. Trump's threat of a 25% tariff on Canadian goods still stands.
Normally, when a Prime Minister goes to the United States to meet a president, they're looking to make gains. What gains did we hear from Mr. Trudeau? None. He's just trying to limit losses.
Poilievre is demanding Canada do even more to stay in Trump's good graces, like deploying provincial police to patrol the border and getting much tougher on illegal fentanyl production. That last point is key. Sources tell us Trump raised fentanyl with Trudeau at their dinner, telling him it's a top priority for his incoming administration. Trump is planning a major crackdown on the deadly drug as soon as he takes office. JP Tasker, CBC News, Ottawa.
As you heard, Trudeau promised Trump more money for better resources at the border to stem the flow of migrants and drugs into the U.S. In an interview with CBC's chief political correspondent, Rosemary Barton, Premier David Eby says Ottawa should take action on the border even without the president-elect's tariff threats.
A lot of the discussion in British Columbia has been focused on the ports, and particularly the need for port police, as well as an increased scanning of the containers that come in. Right. The port in Vancouver, the port in Prince Rupert, they're massive international ports. Less than 2% of the containers that come in are scanned. There is not a dedicated port police presence, and we know that precursor chemicals are coming in to manufacture drugs in British Columbia, and Health Canada needs to do a better job of quickly listing and regulation prohibitions as soon as a new chemical is identified, because the criminals play with the formulas to get them outside the regulations, and so they need to be listed faster. So those are some of the basic things we're looking for here in BC.
Beer doesn't usually enter the calculation in climate initiatives, but a brew in Singapore aims to conserve perhaps the most precious resources by using recycled sewage water. Patrick Falk has the story.
Mitch Greboff is master brewer in charge of developing New Brew's taste profile. It's described as a modern Pilsner with a trendy twist infused with hints of tangerine and tropical fruits. The beer is brewed just like any other, only with recycled sewage water known here as new water. The process of making it removes all impurities. Gribov assures it's perfectly safe.
New water stands out, really, even compared to the Singapore water. It's even softer. It's like 102% pure water.
New Brew is the product of a collaboration between Singapore's National Water Agency and local brewer Brewworks. The beverage was one of several green-themed products on display at the recently concluded COP29 climate gathering in Azerbaijan.
Drinking beer made from recycled water may have felt novel for people at the talks, but it's more than just a gimmick for people here in Singapore.
The city-state doesn't have any fresh natural water resources of its own and is considered one of the most water-stressed countries in the world. The collection of rainwater and water treatment are key to ensuring water security. Tan Wee Tuck is managing director of Brewworks and says people in Singapore are used to the idea of consuming treated water but don't necessarily think much about it. That's part of what New Brew is aimed at.
The idea is to educate the public about how recycled water can be good, it's pristine, and it can be great quality for different kinds of application, including craft beer.
Tan says it can also help increase the acceptance of recycled water while promoting water conservation efforts. Patrick Falk for CBC News, Singapore.
Here we have a live shot of Canby Street tonight. When we return, why do orcas wear dead salmon as hats? We'll tell you after the break.
Let's spread some joy. Kick off the holiday season with a day of special programming in support of local food banks across BC. Make the season kind. December 6th.
A resident orca off the coast of Washington state was recently spotted sporting a dead salmon on its head. The phenomenon was first documented in 1987 when whales from 3 separate pods were seen wearing salmon on their heads, just like a hat.
I'm bringing it back. I'm wearing a fish hat. It's tipped to the side and I kept
the orcas are throwing fish on their heads and carrying them around. And that's an unusual behavior for sure. I don't think we have any idea why this is happening exactly, but it is some kind of communication. This is something that is, I would say, kind of frivolous, kind of playful, and just a symbol of maybe that there were plenty of fish at that time. And that is the case, that there has been a huge chum salmon run in the Puget Sound. In the late 1980s, 1987 or 1988, there was a similar fad of wearing a fish on the head of orcas. And it was recorded. It was a little more sustained then, I believe, that there were more instances. At least 3 whales were participated in the fad at that time. So it's precedented. There's a history of it, but we still cannot really pin down exactly what it means. But it means something to them. That's what's important. Is it is some sort of symbol that carries some meaning that they are communicating. It's always a thrill, and it's a kind of exhilaration to see orcas in the wild in any case. But to see one wearing a fish, you could say that's a cherry on top of that experience.
The 40th annual Van Dusen Festival of Lights kicked off this weekend. New to this year's event, displays celebrating nature.
We have over 15 acres decorated with over 1 million lights, lots of theme displays. This year what's new is we have a theme of the Great Bear Rainforest. So you can find spirit bears, you can find salmon, and there's a really cool new interactive mycelium installation where you can step on a pad to see the fungi structures underneath the tree roots.
The festival has been ranked by Condé Nast Traveler as one of the most spectacular Christmas light displays in the world for 2 years running. The Van Dusen Festival of Lights is on until January 5th. That is your late news for this Sunday. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5:30. Have a great week.